Hello, everybody. I just want to do a video to let you know about our recent experience on taking a Viking cruise. So, I have 7 tips on why you may not want to take a Viking cruise. Might not be for you. And this is just our experience. We took a Viking cruise on April of 2025. We started in Zurich, Switzerland, and we ended in Paris, France. Overall, it was like 12 days. We were in Switzerland, Germany, Luxembourg, and France. We paid over $11,000 to go on this Viking cruise. So it's not cheap. Pretty much, it's more expensive than a typical ocean type cruise. And on the Viking cruises, I mean, they really tout themselves on the river cruises as being, you know, higher end, a step up from any other cruise that you'll take, and they really tout that. So that's kind of what we were expecting. We'd heard good things about the Viking cruises. And so we were a little taken back by a few things. We were expecting really pretty high-end amenities on this cruise. So I'm going to touch base on 7 reasons I would not take a Viking River cruise again. Number 1 was the overall booking and communication process. Last year, my husband and I took a trip to Scotland and to Ireland, and the communication ahead of time was amazing. They told us about all the towns we were going to go to. They sent us things on about our passports. They talked to us about the money that we would need, whether we're in Scotland or Ireland, and just tidbits about kind of the overall everything that you needed to know before you went there. Viking Cruise really does not do that. First of all, their website is not that great. It's kind of hard to navigate and to find things on. I would say it's a little outdated. And then when it came to the flying process and going over there, when they do have somebody that meets you at the airport, they're great, big Viking signs, super nice people, and they get you to the hotel. But as far as like knowing what time, do we leave tomorrow, and who do we meet, and our tour guide, and, what do we need to bring, and all that kind of stuff, we got that the night before our first tour. And so I think they slipped it under our door like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So you're really kind of left not knowing exactly what's going to happen or what you're supposed to do, that type of thing. And they do that every night. So you only know what's going to happen the next day, kind of when you're at dinner. It's slipped under your door, and then it kind of gives you their itinerary. I'll explain to you in a little bit why that's kind of problematic. So if you're a planner at all, like me, and I just kind of like to know, or I like to research stuff, you're not really given a lot of time to do that. So that was one thing. The other thing that we probably weren't aware of that could have been in the education process if they had provided it ahead of time was number 2 would be the extra expenses outside of what you've already paid for. So on our river cruise, we had 2 days that were included in this, that you were in Zurich, Switzerland. And then when we ended, you had kind of a day and a half or 2 days in Paris before you fly out. And that's just how they do it. So you've literally got 4 meals when you arrive and 4 meals when you leave that are going to be on you. Your breakfast will be included, but lunch and dinner are not. So here's what you need to know. Zurich, Switzerland is one of the most expensive cities in the world. I think it's top 10. So when we first get there, and we're going to have dinner that night, my husband and I, we got 2 hamburgers and 2 Pepsis. It was $111. So just to add that in, just know that, you're probably looking at another 400, for 100, I'd say $100 a meal. So if you've got 8 meals that are on your own, you're looking at $900 that are going to be on top of whatever you pay. The food is extremely expensive there. And so just add that in. You just need to know that before you go. Set up also on the cruise ship, the other additional cost you need to know. So you can get Cokes, Pepsi, beer, and your basic wines during meal times. But any time outside of a meal time, you're going to be charged, even for a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, you're going to be charged for it. So you need to know that. It's not just the wine and beer, but we were actually charged for Cokes and Pepsis in between. The setup on the ship. So there are very few common areas, very few. You've got your dining room, which you're only allowed to be in on set times. And then on the second level of the ship, they have like kind of an entertainment area. And there's a bar there where you can get the Cokes and Pepsis or wine or whatever outside of meal times. There is a little tiny gift shop that only has Viking stuff. That's right by kind of their service desk. And that's it. On a Viking cruise, there's only 3 levels to the ships. There's the top level, which is where your captain is at, where they're actually steering the boat from. There's a putting green up there and some chairs. Then you've got the second level, which has got a lot of your veranda rooms. Those are on the second floor and with the balconies. And then that's where your kind of that life engagement area is, where they've got the extra space. And then you've got the dining room, which is down below. And that's where your other rooms are at, with kind of the window units or the little windows, and where your staff stays. And that's your dining room level. So that's it. You've got 3 levels and that you have access to. And so that's it on the ship. The other thing to know about a veranda room on a Viking River cruise and a veranda room on an ocean cruise, they're very different. So we upgraded. We paid more for the veranda room. We thought, okay, we'll have a little more space. My husband's about 6'6", so we typically need any space we can get. An ocean cruise, typically a veranda room has about 286 to 300 square feet of room space. So you typically, have a small bathroom, but you've got your bed, you've got a couch there, usually a little coffee table. And then when you've got your outside veranda area, you have kind of a nice patio space. Okay, a Viking River cruise is about 100 square feet less than that. So you're talking about 200 square feet, 186 to 200 square feet. And let me just tell you, the 100 feet that you're missing, it matters. So you have to put your luggage away right away, or else you won't have room to walk. And you don't have the couch space there. You have a little chair. And then your outside veranda area has 2 little chairs that, if you're tall, you're not going to be able to sit really forward facing. You're going to have to tilt your chair. And the bathrooms are super problematic. So my husband's head touched the ceiling, and then the shower was extremely difficult. The doors open inward. So you were turning the water on, the water's coming out because the doors go inward and it's actually getting on the floor. And I don't know if anybody had a walker or anything like that. I don't see how it would be possible to even get in and out. It was extremely difficult for us to get in and out of the shower. It was very, very challenging to get in and out. So number 4, there's a lack of overall amenities, okay? So I just told you, you've just got one really entertainment area. That's it on the boat. Also, besides the 3 meal times that are set, there are nothing that you would be used to on an ocean cruise. So, there's no food that you can just kind of go grab at your leisure when you want to. Like, I'm going to go grab a hamburger. I'm going to, get some soup, or I want some pie or ice cream or something like that. It's not a thing. They don't have any of that. You can go to that bar and you can get a drink if you want. And then outside on each floor, there's a little espresso machine, so you can get your cappuccinos and coffees, and they've got some cookies there. And that's it. That's all you've got as far as extra go. There's no spas on there. There's no shopping. There's no room service of any kind. And then also the challenge we had is they advertise that we've got internet on all of the cruises. More than half of the cruise, we had no internet service whatsoever, which was crazy because we would get off the boat and you would be docked, near a major town or city, and you could walk around the town. You had great internet service, no problem. Get on the boat, nothing. And so I called down at one point and I said, you guys say that you have internet service. We have no internet service. And she said, yeah, we've got a problem here. This town, we can never get internet service. And I said, well, do you guys have Starlink? And she goes, oh, yeah, we have Starlink, but we have trouble with the towers. Okay, the problem I had with that is Starlink is working on a satellite. My husband and I live on top of a mountain, and we never have issue with Starlink. And here we are, in major cities where you have no problem, but couldn't get internet. The other thing that was frustrating, and I'll explain a little bit why this can be frustrating, is they had really 4 TV channels. They're all news channels. So it's CNN, BBC, MSNBC, there's 4. They never worked either. And so when you would go to a news channel, it would say no connection, can't make a connection. And that's frustrating because when I tell you there's really nothing to do on there, there's there's really no shops or anything else. Sometimes that's all you have to do, and you can't. So that could be a problem, because sometimes it was really rainy and really cold and people didn't want to go on the excursions. They did just want to stay in, and people were really frustrated. The other thing is the Masters was going on while we were on the cruise. And it's not that people didn't want to go on excursions. They wanted to stay in and watch the Masters, but they couldn't. So for people who were avid golfers, and there were a fair number of them on this cruise, they couldn't even see it, couldn't see scores, couldn't touch base. And even on that second level that had the entertainment area with the bar, you would think they would have a TV. They didn't. So there was really nowhere to see any of those things. And so the average age on a Viking cruise, river cruise, is 77 years old. Now, what perplexes me about this is I run senior livings. And so I'm very in tune to older people. 77, I don't really consider to be that old. But we had people that were in their upper 80s and even early 90s on this cruise. There were a fair number of them. What is perplexing to me is that then there's no entertainment during the day on this ship at all. And why this is interesting, which is my number 5, was the average age of a Viking River Cruise. I don't think Viking River Cruises know who they are anymore, and I don't think that they understand the customer that they serve. Maybe the greatest generation was okay paying a lot of money for no amenities whatsoever, but I can tell you your baby boomers are not. So the feedback that I'm giving you was also feedback that was shared and given to us by the 70-year-old early 80s group. They were also frustrated. So if you didn't want to go on an excursion, you weren't doing anything. There wasn't anything to do. So when you would walk into the second level where they had, the seating, you found many people sleeping, which is crazy, but there wasn't anything to do. And so number 6 talks about the excursions. And here's why this is problematic. And I don't think they know their audience or exactly who they're serving. They really, tout themselves as, well, we're catering to an older group. There's no kids allowed. This is very high end, whatever. Really, you're paying a lot of money and you're not getting anything for it. You're getting nothing in return. You have bad beds that you can fill the coils on. You have cheap bedding. You have extremely small rooms, smaller than any other cruise I've ever been on. You have no food in between, no snacks, no anything, and you're going to pay for your drinks outside of mealtime. Go you. So you're paying more money for all that, and you have no entertainment. Number 6 are the excursions. There is a ton of walking on the excursions. And our tour guides, they moved fast. Not a problem for my husband and I. Definitely was a problem for most of the people that we were with who had knee replacements and things like that. They had a very hard time keeping up. You're also on cobblestone streets, so it can be problematic for you. What I disliked about the excursions is they would take you into a town like Speyer, Strasbourg, these fantastic towns. We spent almost our entire time in a cathedral. Now, I'm all about a cathedral, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to spend the whole excursion in one place in one cathedral, and they really would beat that dead horse. You would go in there, you're spending all your time there, then you get out of the cathedral and you're in these fantastic towns, and they would say, well, you know, you've got 20 minutes to meet us back here. You've got 40 minutes to meet us back here. And it's like, 40 minutes? I have 40 minutes to explore this fantastic town, but we just spent 2 hours in a cathedral. They also spend an excessive amount of time busing you to and from. You waste most of your time just getting to and from a place. So, for instance, we took a castle tour, Elsa Castle in Germany. We went to see that. And it was a 45-minute bus tour just to get to that place. Then when you get there, you have to wait in a very, very long line for a little bus that takes you down the mountainside to the actual castle. So that day we get on, we take a bus tour, and there was probably 30 of us, and it is pouring rain. So then they let us off the bus. We've got to walk to where you take the small bus. And then we were standing out there soaking wet in super cold rain that was blowing, because the tiny bus only took like 10 to 20 people down the mountain at a time. My husband and I and a couple of other couples who were younger decided we would walk so that the older people could get on the buses faster and not be standing out there in the cold. As we're walking down the mountain, it's super steep, and it is wet. There's a couple behind us. They were not a part of the Viking Cruise, had a girl that was probably high school age, and she fell walking down there and got hurt really bad. They had to send the medics up. By the time we get down to the castle, after the whole waiting on this bus and soaking wet, when our tour guide starts, the tour literally was 20 minutes. Our overall time at this castle, this whole thing to get there, was maybe 25, 30 minutes tops. When we're leaving the castle, we have to stand again outside and wait on the small bus to take us up the mountain. No real way to walk at this point because it's so wet and so slippery, and it's asphalt all the way down. It's too dangerous. So again, we all stood out there for about 30 to 40 minutes to get our whole group back up to the main bus. Everybody's soaking wet, and it was 45 minutes back to the cruise ship, and everybody said not worth it. This was absolutely not worth it. This was not good. And so that was kind of the general consensus. Other one that we went to, Speyer, just their normal walking tour. And also on the castle, we had to pay extra money for that tour. That wasn't just one of their normal walking tours. That was extra to pay for all that aggravation. So then one day we go to Speyer, Germany, and it is Palm Sunday. So we couldn't go into the cathedral, which was, they advertised that as you were going to go tour the cathedral. That was the whole thing, right? And so we couldn't get in because it was Palm Sunday and they had service. And that's fine. So we'd say, all right, what a great town. We're going to go explore the town. No. Everything is shut down there on Sunday. Nothing was open except maybe 4 restaurants. So literally we walked around the town looking in windows of things that were shut that we couldn't even go to. Now, why this is frustrating is on a normal like ocean cruise, there's other things you can do on the ship. Plenty of things you can do, plenty of entertainment. So if you decide not to take an excursion, it's okay. So we don't have that opportunity. So people went back. You had to wait on the bus. You can't just walk back to the ship, you guys. You got to wait for the bus to come get you. And the thing is, after the tour guide spent time talking about the cathedral that we never actually got to see, we had to stand outside of, I think we had like 40 minutes to tour Speyer. I mean, it didn't matter. Everything was closed, but you still only had 40 minutes. So then we go back, we walk back to where the bus is going to meet us, and then they take us back to the cruise. So you've got, 2-3 hours before dinner. Dinner wasn't till 7:30. and you've got nothing to do. I mean, there's no real entertainment. There's no TV. The TV channels don't work. Now, they would do a little entertainment before dinner every night, like about 6 o'clock or whatever, and they'd play some, had music come in, and it was mediocre. It wasn't great. And then after dinner, there could be a talk about what the town was going to be the next day, what to look forward to. That is going to be your height of entertainment on the ship. Not really anything else to do. 7, rigid times. I felt like a child in elementary school, extremely rigid about everything. You leave to do the excursions, it's a certain time. You're going to spend a certain time in the cathedrals. You got to meet them back at a certain time. It's time, because they're shuttling you back and forth on the buses. So it's not very relaxed. But the most shocking thing for me was how rigid they are on breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you have for breakfast and lunch, there's usually like an hour and a half window when breakfast is served or lunch or dinner. It is not, you're meeting all sorts of great people from all over the country or different countries that you'd love to sit and visit with, but it's not that atmosphere. So instead of just sitting back and kind of enjoying, what's going on, it's very much like get in, get out, get in, get out. And they hurry you along. And I watched a couple one day walk in 5 minutes after breakfast was supposed to stop. And the servers on there were mad. They were very upset about it. And so we figured out the reason being when talking to them is because they have such a small staff there. It's very much task focused. It's not passenger focused. It's task focused because they eat after they serve you. So they want you out of there and they want to reset the tables right away and then they eat. So if you're wanting to visit with people and just relax and kind of enjoy, your cup of coffee or a Danish or something like that, it's not going to happen. You're going to be ushered out. Now you can go to that second floor if you want, where there's nothing to do and sit there and look out and that type of thing. But it's pretty rigid. And, the reason that sometimes you just want to sit and visit, there were several days that it was super cold over there and raining. And if there was a couple of towns you had to walk into the city and they were fairly good walks. A lot of the older people did not want to do that. You got to think about it. It's kind of dangerous, but even us, we're younger and we didn't want to do that necessarily. And so it would be great if there was food on there. It was more relaxed. You could take your time because not everybody was doing the excursions every day. Some people couldn't keep up with all that, or they just didn't want to, or some people had been on that particular cruise before and they'd already seen it and didn't want to do it. So that rigid pace that they've got, where you've got to get up, you got to go, you got to, get moving, is really not what you want to do, especially if you don't have kids or if you're retired or whatever. You want to be able to relax, but it's not the atmosphere that's created. So for me, it's really, I don't think that they know who their customer is. Because it's like in one area, you're serving older people and not serving kids, but you don't have anything to do on the cruise. And you're going to see that in a lot of people's reviews. But then if your average age is 77, why are your excursions, so brutal? Why are you spending hours walking, around, fast-paced walk, and you gotta go, type of thing, when your average age is older? So it just seems to kind of be a mismatch of who they're trying to serve or what they try to do. But as far as being a higher end river cruise, you're going to be super disappointed. There's nothing higher end about a Viking River Cruise. The food is not higher end than what you're getting on an ocean cruise, and you're getting a lot less of it. So it was frustrating. You got to set time for breakfast, like I said, but they've got a breakfast buffet. You can get a menu. It's limited. Most people were going through the buffet. It was frustrating. They have the omelets at the very beginning of the buffet, which doesn't really make any sense. A lot of people didn't want an omelet. They wanted to get scrambled eggs or the bacon or whatever, but you're creating a huge line because that's the very first thing you have is an omelet, and then people are waiting for people to get omelets, but that's not really what they want. So a lot of things to me don't make sense on how they have it or creates frustration where frustration doesn't need to be. The people on the cruise ship, the staff were fantastic. They were helpful. The only frustrating part was they're definitely task oriented. They definitely want you in and out of the dining room. They don't want you just sitting around there. They want you to move so they can eat and they can move on. And it's not like an ocean cruise where you have different teams and people taking different shifts. It's the same group for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so that's part of the problem with the time schedule being so rigid and strict. It's the same group of people. They don't have anybody relieving them. And so that creates a problem. So anyway, just a few things to think about when you're taking a Viking River cruise. I mean, my husband and I didn't feel like it was at all worth the money, and we wouldn't do it again. I'd be willing to take a Viking Ocean cruise if I saw they had more amenities or spas or things were different, but I would never do a Viking River cruise again. We didn't feel it was at all worth it. So anyway, hopefully this helps you. You may feel differently, and that's great, but that was just our experience. So thank you.